Good morning and welcome to Kramer's Corner with a daily technical update. It is Friday, it is the 19th of December. This video is for educational purposes only. There's no recommendation or advice whatsoever intended. It is only to demonstrate how I try to read the market using technical analysis and my experience. Also, I have to mention that this might be the last one before Christmas. There will not be an update on Monday the 22nd. I can't make that. There might be one on Tuesday the 23rd, and then again after Christmas, before New Year, there might be one or two also, just to let you know. But you will get a notification when it's being sent out. If you're following me on Substack, where you can find me on Kramer's Corner, it will be released at the earliest, or on YouTube, Kramer's Corner TA. All right, let's kick it off with the semiconductor index again. That bounced a bit strongly yesterday, 2% up. It bounced from just above the support here at 283.5, where it didn't close that little gap there, and that is key. It's also key that the RSI didn't close below 40 threshold, as you can see here. So it's technically still in a positive sentiment. It needs to close below 40 to go into negative sentiment, and that will also probably mean that it needs to close below 283.5. So we're still having a little bit, clinging to a little bit of a positive hope here on the semiconductor index. Nvidia also here the other day on Wednesday, it was just tested the 170.29 support area here. The key one here on 167, but Nvidia is actually in a negative sentiment. You can see it closed below 40 threshold here a couple of days ago. So it is actually in a confirmed bearish trend, but it's still holding on a little bit. But you can see it's below all the moving averages and below the cloud. Oracle, I think we should mention that also, because I mentioned it for quite a few times. It's very close to close its gap here. It just touched it there on Wednesday. It bounced a little bit yesterday, so it's in the gap here. If it does close below the gap, then it likely to continue lower. And because see, there is a little bit of divergence. You can see these lows here are higher than here. So the pressure, the selling pressure is easing a little bit. So maybe we could see it bouncing a little bit here the next few days. However, we are in a bearish trend, as we can see, and it really needs to close this gap up to this candle here before it can actually just think about a bullish trend. And you can see the 55 moving average crossed over the 100. They are both declining. So the underlying trend, medium term, is bearish together with the short term also. So really heavy there on Oracle, but holding on a little bit at the moment. Nasdaq 100 that here Wednesday closed around the support at 24,652. RSI bounced off the 40 threshold, so we are still on a knife's edge here. But if we do close below the lows here from Wednesday, and if we do close below the 100 moving average below the cloud, then we are likely to see selling pressure really increasing and pushing to these lows here just below 24,000. If we can get back above the cloud here, then we could resume uptrend. Pre-market, as we look at the future, it's continuing to bounce a little bit here in early session. It bounced yesterday, only hits the future at the 100 moving average and the 61.8 retracement there, so a little bit of a bounce. But if it takes out the lows here from the past few days, well, then we could be looking at 24,000. S&P 500 dipped lower there. There's not really any key supports, but what we can do, we can say, of course, there is down here at these levels there, these lows there, and there is also a little bit of support there, but it's not that significant. What is key is that also here we have RSI above 40 threshold still, and it closed above 60 threshold there, meaning we're still in a positive sentiment, and we could bounce further the next 2 days, still above the cloud. So in a very cautious, we're really cautious there at the moment, I will say. So let's see what will bring us here the next few days towards Christmas, also going into next week. Pre-market, basically unchanged. It in the aftermarket yesterday, it bounced a little bit, couldn't hold on, but also bounced here from the 50% uptrend, and that is key. Could still slide lower, so be careful. Market is nervous, it seems. If it can move back above the rising trend line there, then maybe we could re-establish the bullish trend. But for now, I would be very cautious indeed. The Russell 2000 small caps has bounced a little bit from the 38.2 retracement, still positive sentiment, no divergence, actually indicating we could see higher levels. However, we have a top and reversal pattern here in the form of a bearish engulfing, taking out the previous day's candle, so that needs to also be cancelled for further upside. The Hang Seng index testing the upper falling trend line there. Key support here at 25,145. We talked about it for many days. That is key to hold. It dipped below, but if it does close below, well, then we are looking at levels around 24,475. We are in a bearish trend. It just hasn't been reconfirmed there. We are in a negative sentiment after RSI was below 40 threshold. So the pressure is to the downside since we're also below the moving averages. Nikkei, on the other hand, that has bound, this is the future, bound from the 786 retracement of this uptrend there, and could resume uptrend. So what I will do, I remove this one because it's obsolete now. We can then add a new one here, say, all right, is this the bounce there? And then we can start looking for levels up here. We can see it got rejected there at the upper part of a cloud, but it's in the cloud, so it's actually neutral position. If it moves back above the cloud, then I think we'll see uptrend resuming and a push towards these 51,170 peaks once again. EuroStoxx 50 yesterday, very strong ending to the session, still holding on above cloud, so still slightly positive sentiment on the RSI above the 50 moving average, and we can see here on the pre-market where it's bounced off of from the 55 moving average and the 38.2 retracement. So we are still with a positive undertone for the EuroStoxx 50 here illustrated by the CFD. And I think we could see also here this morning it has started on a positive note, about 0.25% higher. So let's see if it can keep that positivity throughout the session and towards Christmas and New Year. DAX also had a very good day yesterday, moving back above the cloud here, bouncing strongly. Still positive sentiment on the RSI. If it can get back above 60 threshold, well, then we could see another attempt at this resistance here at 24,441, and if it takes out the spike up there, well, then we are back really in a bullish trend. If it takes out the lows from yesterday, well, then we could see further selling down to around 23,500. Pre-market, it seems we are indicating to open in Europe on a good foot here. On the euro dollar, well, after the spike up there, setting back a little bit, support here at just around 117. I think it could test it, but we are in a positive sentiment on the RSI. RSI currently testing the 60 threshold there. There's no divergence on it, meaning that we could see higher levels. However, we could see it setting back a little bit, and this is also how you can work with it. So if I add this one to it, a little Fibonacci there, it also the 50% also hits. Oh, sorry, the 61.8 also hit nicely with the 50% of the uptrend there. So there's some strong support there, just around 117. Sterling dollar, the same. Underlying positive sentiment and trend, just trading sideways. And remember, we are getting into the Christmas and year-end period, and we could see a bit of volatility because the liquidity will be thinner and thinner. Still euro sterling between 88 and 87. Dollar yen bounced off a couple of days ago here, and I think it will resume uptrend. If it moves back above the 60 threshold, then I think we will see it taking out 157 and possibly also taking out the previous peak there around just below 158, and it's likely to push higher. Euro-yen bounced from its rising trend line, the short-term rising trend line there, still in a bullish trend. It is a little bit fragile with declining strength indicator, but for now we are keeping the bullish tone, and I'll say as long as we stay above 181.5, well, then the bullish trend is intact. Aussie yen also bounced here from its rising trend line and from the 50% of this uptrend, this leg up there. And I think we'll see it pushing higher here in the coming days. There is divergence, as you can see on the RSI, so we are in a little bit exhaustive mode, but as long as the trend is your friend, and it is at the moment, and we stay above 102.30, we can see we have bounced up to the 50%. If it takes out the peak from today, which I believe it will, then I think we'll see it crawling higher to these peaks here just above 104. Sterling yen already testing the peak here just around 208.90, and I think we'll see it pushing higher towards 210 here today and going into next week. And if RSI moves back above, and it seems like it will do it, its falling trend line there on the RSI, well, then it will further confirm the bullish picture to above 210, or at least to 210. Aussie dollar, well, it can't really make up its mind after bouncing a little bit, trading sideways, but it tells us, the RSI tells us that we should see higher levels on the Aussie dollar. Unless it takes out the lows here, then we could see it setting back further, maybe down to 66.50, where we have stronger support on the 100 moving average and the 55 coming up, but I think we'll see the bounce there eventually. Dollar Canada bouncing a little bit. It is in a bearish trend. We have the all moving averages declining. There's no divergence on the RSI, indicating likely lower levels below these lows here at 137.25, 137.30. There's a little bit of support there, but the underlying trend is bearish, and despite the fact we could see a correction, maybe even up to just below 139, then the downtrend will prevail. Sterling Canada, more or less the same picture really. You can see at least the 55 and the 200 declining, and the 55 will most likely break below the 200, and they're both declining here early next week. That will put another pressure on Sterling Canada. So, and we are already in a negative sentiment on the RSI, indicating that we will see the downside resuming after this sideways range trading. Euro-Swiss, well, a lot of noise here in this. I mean, the strength indicator tells us we could see higher levels, but look at this. We have the 200 declining, we have the 100 that also dragging on it, and the 55. And if it takes out the lows here around 92.80 and 92.85, well, then we could see it pushing lower and below the cloud, and also down to maybe 92.25. It really needs to get back above here, 93.75, or push above the 94 level to 94.40, 94.5. So at the moment, a little bit to the weaker side. The dollar Swiss still seems to be forming this triangle-like pattern here, and to the downside, I would say 78.25. If it takes out that, well, then we have a bearish trend. And at the moment, it seems like that's the way we are going to head, because we are below the cloud. We have negative sentiment on the RSI. We are below both the 155 moving averages, and they are slightly declining. And we have the 200 also giving a push down there. So I think we will see a move to the downside. But when, that is the question. And how much is also the question. Dollar index bouncing from the 61.8, continues to bounce here, and I think we could see it bouncing further. Sorry about that. There was an alarm clock that went off, so I had to pause a little bit and get rid of it. we are in a bouncing mode, and I think we could see it bouncing up to 98.40, maybe even 98.60, the 61.8 retracement of this little last leg down there. What we can also measure from up here, so maybe we'll get up to the 38.2 there at 98.59. However, if it takes out the lows here at 97.5, well, then we will be looking at 96.80 support down here. And possibly lower. So some key levels to watch out for. Gold can't really push higher here, and it seems like it won't do that. I mean, yesterday it did push higher, just below, just around 43.75, and then setting back again, but still positive sentiment, and we should push higher here in the coming weeks and coming days. We are in a bullish trend also on silver that has been really strong lately, and still in a bullish trend. However, you can see that the RSI is declining, so we are stretched. We are in exhaustion mode, but I don't have a top and reversal pattern in place. We can have a look at the silver future. Will it form a top and reversal? Hasn't done it yet, but you can also see RSI values declining. So we are quite stressed a little bit. We are quite stressed actually. But again, the trend is your friend, and as long as we stay above 75, well, the uptrend short term will be intact. So keep an eye on also if it starts breaking this deep rising the trend line. It's not the strongest one, so it is. It's just an indicator, I would say. We have platinum that spiked to the 200% of this corrective pattern here, and I think we could see a little bit of a correction after setting back. Unless it takes out the peak there, well, then we are looking above 2,000, and we're very close to that with 1979 and a change. But I think I have added this Fibonacci to the uptrend there, and said we could see a correction kicking in. I'm not quite sure how big it will be, but down to around 1,776, that would be quite a large one. But given the volatility in platinum, it is not unlikely. If we measure from the last leg up there, maybe it will only be down to 1834 at the 38.2 retracement. But let's see if I mean, the bullish trend is strong. No divergence now, and I think we could see it pushing higher. Also here on the weekly, we see really a strong uptrend indication. On the copper future, still bullish. Struggling a little bit, but it's above 60 threshold on the RSI, and if it can get back above the falling trend line there, then I think we will see it pushing higher. 561 and the previous peak there just below 600. Well, it is in the cards. On the energy side and WTI crude oil in bouncing mode, but not that strong. Downtrend, it is intact. If it takes out the lows here from a couple of days ago, just below $55, $54.98, well, then we will be looking towards 52 area, and we can see that on the weekly here. We are in a bearish trend, short term, a medium term, and also actually a longer term. So really heavy on the oil, despite a little correction there. If it takes out the peak from today, the peak price from today at just above 57, well, then we could see a bounce up to around 58.40, but I don't think that will play out. But again, it's not a recommendation, so keep an eye on the market. Same picture on Brent crude oil. There's actually potential lower below 58.40, where it bounced just above that support, and bounced a little bit above 60, but seems to be resuming downtrend, negative sentiment indicating lower levels. European nat gas tried to bounce off the. There's really not much support, so dancing sideways. We could get up to around 28.60, maybe even 29, but the downtrend is intact. Also on the medium term, we talked about for such a long time that there is actually potential down to the 22, 23. The US nat gas, well, it's tried to bounce, got knocked down, so now it's testing the lows here again. So I think if it takes out the lows here at 384, then, well, we'll be looking at 358, maybe 345. But there's some strong support here with the 100 moving average coming up and the 200 also giving some support. So it might be the last breath or the last straw and then a bounce. However, if it takes out 4.25. Uptrend is back in session, and we could see further strong bouncing. On the interest side, US 10-year Treasury yield testing once again here, and I think I will add a horizontal line here, a support line. You can see at 4.11 there seems to be some key interest there. We dipped maybe just 4.11. Yeah, we tested that once again yesterday. So as long as we stay below 4.20, 4.21, well then we are still in the bearish scenario, but as you can see here, the RSI actually showing positive sentiment, so we could risk it to the upside. And if it takes out the peaks there at 421, well, then we are in for higher levels. On the European yields, we had yesterday spiking to the previous peak here, just below 290, just below it. That peak there. So if it takes out that, well, then we are looking at 294, 295, maybe even 3%. But in the big picture here, past few days, just stepping sideways. The UK one, well, forming this triangle-like pattern, so not much to say. The Japanese 10-year is trading around 2% now. It's actually above 2% as we speak, and there could be further upside potential for it. I don't have any resistance levels up there, but what you can do, you can add a Fibonacci to this and say, okay, we could maybe see it push up to around 205 level. That's 200% of that little correction, and there could be potential higher in the coming days and weeks. Looking at the 30-year, we can also see that is pushing towards its previous peak, where the 10-year actually made a new high there. We are still a little bit lagging here on the 30-year, but it is in a bullish trend, and I think we'll see it pushing higher in the coming days and weeks. On the crypto, dancing a little bit sideways to the weaker side here on on Bitcoin. Trying to get back above the now resistance there at 87,733. We are in a bearish trend. We are in a negative sentiment here on the RSI. Can it move back above? Maybe, but we are still in a bearish trend for now. So be cautious. If it takes out the lows from yesterday, well, we could test these lows here. Ethereum bouncing also a little bit here, but it is the key support here at 26.20 that should be observed. So it's a little bit directionless at the moment. I can't make up its mind. Should I go higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, and then, oh no, I don't want to do that. Now I want to have a new low. And will I also test these lows here at 26.20? So because it's on the crypto, very indecisive on the direction. All right, that's all for now. For now, if I don't speak to you before Christmas, have a nice Christmas, but at least have a nice weekend.